We have new information in that toxic train derailment. The National Transportation Safety Board said the train carrying hazardous materials had aluminum protective covers that melted in the heat, damaging the pressure relief devices. Now, those devices help relieve the pressure in the tank, and those aluminum protective covers were made in the 90s. Now the NTSB will examine if those melted aluminum covers affected the operation of the pressure relief devices after the derailments. And Ohio lawmakers don't want what happened in East Palestine to happen anywhere else.
And News Center 7's John Bedell talked with Ohio senators about this new plan, which could impact the country. Plus, he looks at the history of these kinds of wrecks right here in our state.
This bipartisan legislation comes from national lawmakers, including both of Ohio's senators. The whole point here is to make our railways across the country safer. In communities all over the Dayton area, you don't have to wait long to see a train come by. Rail safety is something that impacts many Ohioans. The Ohio Rail Development Commission says the state's more than 5,100 miles of active rail lines is the fourth most extensive in the country. In response to the toxic train derailment in East Palestine last month, Ohio Senators Sherrod Brown and J.D. Vance are co-sponsoring the Railway Safety Act.
If you look at what happened in East Palestine, you had a very defective ball bearing, something that should have been noticed. If it had been noticed, you would not have had the catastrophe that you had. That's actually one of the things that our legislation does, is force a national sensor program that identifies defective ball bearings so that they don't lead to these catastrophic derailments.
In its preliminary report, the NTSB found an overheated wheel bearing led to the derailment in East Palestine. Officials said by the time an alarm went off, letting the crew know about the overheating, it was too late. The bearing was so badly damaged, it failed as the crew tried slowing the train to a stop.
We want to make sure there are fewer accidents, and when there are, that the damage is much less, especially on the overheated wheels, especially on the hot boxes, especially on carrying hazardous materials.
Among other things, the bill aims to reduce the risk of wheel bearing failures by requiring trains hauling hazmat to be scanned by so-called hot box detectors every 10 miles. Many in the Miami Valley remember the train derailment in Miamisburg in 1986. Cars carrying phosphorus derailed and burned for days. An investigation found the train was speeding on a newly installed section of track. At the time, it led to the largest evacuation in Ohio history. We'll track the progress of the Railway Safety Act in Washington and let you know what happens to it. In Eaton, I'm John Bedell, News Center 7.